Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to take you on a beautiful journey. But before we begin, let me ask you, if you had the power to manifest anything you desire simply by the way you think and feel, would you dare to use it? Do you understand the power that lies within your own words? Most speak without thought, without awareness of the forces they set in motion. Yet every word, every phrase you repeat is shaping the very fabric of your reality. The world does not happen to you, it is responding to you, reflecting back the sum total of your inner dialogue. You do not simply communicate through words, you create through them. Every spoken word is a decree, a command issued to the unseen forces that govern creation. Whether you speak in confidence or in doubt, in faith or in fear, the law remains the same. That which you declare with feeling and conviction must externalize itself in your world. You may believe you are merely expressing how things are, yet you are setting forth a pattern that must be fulfilled. You call forth either abundance or lack, health or sickness, joy or despair, always according to your own assumption, spoken and reaffirmed by your words. When you say, "I am struggling," you have sealed your fate. The words carry an order to the subconscious mind, which knows only how to fulfill what is impressed upon it. The subconscious does not argue, does not question, it simply obeys. And so the moment you affirm struggle, it begins to weave together the people, events, and circumstances necessary to make your words true. But if instead you declare, "I am abundant, I am fulfilled, all things work in my favor," then this too must be made manifest. The world does not care whether your statements are true in the present moment. It only seeks to make them true. When spoken with feeling, words become the seed of experience, and in time they must bloom. Look upon your life and see the evidence of this law in action. Were your greatest triumphs not first declared? Did you not once say, "I can do this," before it became so? And likewise, were not your greatest difficulties magnified by the words you repeated in despair? You may believe that your words were merely describing reality, but in truth, they were creating it. Understand this, and you will understand why certain words hold more power than others. It is not the syllables or the sounds that shape reality. It is the feeling behind them, the conviction with which they are spoken. A weak declaration carries no weight, but a word spoken with certainty is a force that cannot be denied. This is why affirmations alone will not work unless they are believed. To merely repeat words without feeling is to cast seeds upon barren ground. But when spoken from the depth of conviction, when felt as truth even before evidence appears, the entire universe moves to bring them to fruition. So what, then, should you speak? Speak only that which you wish to see fulfilled. Speak only in harmony with the life you desire. Even if circumstances seem to contradict your words, persist in them. Let the weak say, "I am strong." Let the poor say, "I am wealthy," not because they wish it to be so, but because in the unseen reality it is already so. You need not concern yourself with how these words will come to pass. That is not your task. Your task is only to assume them as true, to speak them with the authority of one who knows. The moment you do, the wheels are set in motion. Your words will take on form, arranging the necessary conditions to fulfill themselves in ways beyond your comprehension. Never again speak of yourself or your circumstances as something you do not wish to sustain. If you do not desire struggle, do not affirm it. If you do not desire limitation, do not give voice to it. Each word you speak is a contract, binding you to the reality it expresses. Begin now to choose your words with intention. Instead of saying, "I am waiting for change," declare, "Change is already happening." Instead of saying, "I hope to succeed," affirm, "I have already succeeded." Feel the truth of these words as you speak them, and reality will shape itself to match. Your world is nothing more than the echo of your spoken word. Choose wisely what you declare, and you will choose wisely the life you create. There is a law so simple yet so absolute that once understood, it removes all uncertainty from life. It is this: your assumption creates your world. The conditions you experience, the people you meet, the circumstances that unfold before you, they are not random, nor are they imposed upon you by some external force. They are the direct reflection of your own inner state, the natural outpicturing of the assumptions you hold as true. You may believe that reality is something outside of you, something that exists independent of your thoughts and feelings, but this is the great illusion. The world you see is nothing more than the crystallization of your own consciousness. What you assume to be true, whether in faith or in fear, will harden into fact. Every belief you entertain, every conviction you hold, is shaping the unseen forces that will inevitably express themselves in your experience. Look no further than your own life for proof of this law. Consider the patterns that have repeated, the circumstances that seem to persist despite your efforts to change them. Have you not noticed that the same struggles return, that the same successes come with ease? This is not coincidence, it is assumption made manifest. If you assume that life is a struggle, you will find endless evidence to confirm it. Opportunities will slip through your fingers, obstacles will appear at every turn, and even your greatest efforts will yield little result. Not because you are unlucky, not because life is against you, but because your assumption of struggle has commanded reality to obey. Likewise, if you assume that success is inevitable, if you move through the world with the quiet confidence of one who knows, then success must find you. The right people, the right circumstances, the right opportunities will be drawn to you as surely as the river flows to the sea, not because you force them, but because they are the natural outcome of your inner state. You do not manifest what you want, nor do you manifest what you wish. You manifest what you assume. The difference is everything. Wanting and wishing place your desire in the future, always just out of reach. Assumption, on the other hand, claims it now, and only that which is claimed in consciousness can be expressed in form. If you assume wealth, even in the face of apparent lack, the world must reorganize itself to reflect that assumption. If you assume health, even when symptoms suggest otherwise, the body must obey. If you assume love, even in solitude, it will find its way to you. But assumption is not idle daydreaming. It is not mere positive thinking. To assume is to take possession in consciousness, to live as though it were already so. It is to walk, speak, and think from the fulfillment of your desire rather than toward it. The great error most make is to assume based on what their senses tell them. They look upon their circumstances and say, "This is my reality," never realizing that the only reason it exists is because they continue to assume it. The senses are not creators, they are followers. They merely confirm what has already been accepted within. Change begins not with effort, not with struggle, but with a shift in assumption. If you wish to see a new reality, assume it now. Do not wait for evidence, do not seek confirmation. Assume it boldly, persistently, unwaveringly, until the world has no choice but to conform. Some will call this foolishness. They will say, "How can I assume what is not yet visible?" But this is precisely the error that keeps them bound. The visible is only the past in motion, the residue of former assumptions. To wait for proof is to remain forever at the mercy of what has already been created. The wise understand that assumption comes first and reality follows. Every moment offers a choice: to assume as you have always assumed and remain where you are, or to assume something greater and allow life to rearrange itself accordingly. Nothing stands between you and the fulfillment of your desire except the assumption that it is not yet yours. The moment you drop this false belief, the moment you claim it in consciousness as already done, the process is set in motion. Live now as the one you wish to be. Assume it so fully that there is no room for doubt. And as surely as the dawn follows the night, your world will shift to match the new state you have claimed. There is a power within you so great that the moment you align with it, the entire structure of your world must yield to your desire. This power does not require effort, struggle, or force. It requires only a shift, a simple yet profound acceptance that what you seek is already yours. The words you speak, the thoughts you dwell upon, are the bridges between the unseen and the seen, between the formless and the formed. And among all the words you could ever utter, there are 4 lines that, when spoken with conviction, will unlock the reality you desire. It is done. It is finished. I have it now. Thank you. These words are not a request. They are not a plea to some external force, nor are they an empty ritual. They are declarations spoken from the understanding that all creation is finished, that nothing is ever to be created but only claimed. Every possible reality exists now, waiting for recognition, waiting for the moment you assume its truth. The moment you affirm that it is done, you step into alignment with the unseen forces that shape your world. The mind, conditioned by years of doubt, will resist this truth. It will argue, but I do not see it yet. Or how can I declare something that has not yet come to pass? But this is the great misunderstanding. The world you perceive with your senses is not the source of creation. It is the effect. The cause is within you. To wait for evidence before assuming its truth is to live at the mercy of appearances. But to declare its truth before it is seen is to command reality itself. It is done. These words remove all uncertainty. They dissolve the illusion of waiting, of hoping, of chasing. They affirm that what you seek is already yours, fully established in the unseen. They sever the attachment to time, for time is nothing but the unfolding of what has already been assumed. If it is done, there is no need to question, no need to doubt. It is not something that will be, it is. It is finished. This is the release, the letting go of effort, the quiet confidence that the work is complete. Just as a seed once planted does not need to be dug up to ensure its growth, so too does your assumption require no further struggle. The moment you claim it is finished, the process begins to unfold in perfect order. I have it now. The subconscious mind does not operate in future tense. It responds only to the present. To say, I will have it, is to place your desire always beyond reach. But to declare, I have it now, is to bring the future into the present, to assume the state of already possessing that which you seek. It is the shift from longing to ownership, from lack to fulfillment. And once this state is fully assumed, it must externalize itself in your world. Thank you. Gratitude is the final act of faith. It is the evidence of things unseen, the acknowledgement that what has been claimed is already received. When you give thanks, you confirm that you are no longer waiting, no longer hoping, you are knowing. And in this knowing, the unseen must become seen, for the law does not fail. These 4 lines hold power because they eliminate the greatest barriers to manifestation: doubt, resistance, and attachment to the external world. They shift the focus from wishing to assuming, from waiting to receiving. When spoken with conviction, they align you with the reality you desire, and from that alignment, the external world must conform. If you doubt their effectiveness, consider this. Have you not seen how words shape your life? Have you not experienced how your inner conversations determine your experiences? Every success, every failure, every repeated pattern has been the result of what you have unconsciously affirmed. The difference now is that you will do so consciously, deliberately, and with absolute certainty. Each night, as you drift into sleep, let these words be your final thought. Speak them, feel them, embody them. Let your mind rest in the knowing that it is already done. And as you persist in this assumption, reality will move. Circumstances will shift, and what was once unseen will stand before you, undeniable and real. There is within you a power so vast, so limitless, that once understood and directed, it will bring forth into form every desire of your heart. This power does not reside outside of you. It is not found in circumstances, in luck, or in the opinions of others. It is within the unseen force that governs all creation, the silent architect of your world. It is the subconscious mind, the great bridge between the invisible and the visible, the formless and the formed. Everything you have ever experienced, every event, every condition, is nothing more than a reflection of the impressions made upon this deeper mind. It does not reason, it does not argue, it does not question. It simply accepts and expresses whatever is impressed upon it, whether knowingly or unknowingly. This is why the greatest secret to manifestation is not effort, not struggle, but the ability to impress upon the subconscious that which you wish to see expressed in your world. The subconscious mind is the soil in which all seeds of thought take root. It does not determine whether thought is good or bad, whether it will bring joy or sorrow. It simply receives what is planted and brings it forth into reality. If you plant seeds of fear, doubt, and limitation, then these must appear in your experience. If you plant seeds of confidence, abundance, and fulfillment, then these too must take shape in the world around you. The law does not change. Only the nature of the seed determines what shall be reaped. Most people live unaware of this law, allowing the outer world to dictate the impressions they accept. They see lack and assume it must continue. They experience hardship and believe it to be unchangeable. They repeat the same stories, the same inner dialogues, reinforcing the very conditions they wish to escape. But the wise understand that the outer world is only the past in motion, the result of former impressions. If one desires to change circumstances, one must cease looking outward for change and turn within to impress a new reality upon the subconscious. The question then arises, how does one impress the subconscious mind? The answer is simple: through assumption, repetition, and feeling. The subconscious responds only to what is deeply felt and persistently assumed. Words alone are not enough if they are spoken without conviction. To say I am wealthy while feeling poor, to affirm I am loved while feeling unworthy, is to create no real change. The subconscious does not hear the words, it feels the state behind them. This is why one must not only declare their desire, but become it in imagination. If you seek abundance, you must assume the feeling of already being abundant. If you seek health, you must assume the state of perfect well-being. The assumption must be so complete that the subconscious accepts it as fact. And once it is accepted, the external world has no choice but to conform. The most powerful moment to impress the subconscious is the state just before sleep. As the conscious mind begins to fade, the doorway to the deeper mind opens, making it most receptive to suggestion. In this drowsy, relaxed state, you must assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, not as something distant, not as something hoped for, but as something already accomplished. You must enter sleep in the assumption that your desire is a present reality, knowing that the subconscious will take this assumption and bring it forth into the world. This is the great secret behind all manifestation. It is not about forcing the external world to change. It is about impressing the subconscious with a new reality and allowing it to outpicture that reality in divine order. The outer world is only the reflection. The inner world is the cause. Change the cause and the effect must follow. Every great achievement, every so-called miracle has followed this principle. The minds that have shaped history, the inventors, the visionaries, the pioneers, all understood, whether consciously or unconsciously, that what is impressed upon the subconscious must externalize itself. They did not beg, they did not plead, they assumed. They lived in the end seeing the world not as it was, but as they knew it must become. There is no power outside of you determining your fate. There is only your own consciousness, your own ability to impress upon the subconscious the state you wish to experience. The choice is always yours, to continue accepting the limitations of the past, or to impress a new and greater reality upon the deeper mind. And once you make this choice, Once you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the bridge between the unseen and the seen is crossed, and that which was once only imagined must become real. There is a truth so profound, so absolute, that once grasped, it will transform every aspect of your life. It is the understanding that creation is finished, that every possibility, every outcome, every reality already exists. Nothing is to be created. Everything is simply to be claimed. And the way in which you claim your desired reality is by assuming it as already done, by living in the end. Most people live their lives reacting to what they see, believing that circumstances dictate their fate. They wait for evidence before they believe. They look to the world for proof that their desires are possible. But this is the great error. The world is not the cause, it is the effect. The reality you experience is the direct outpicturing of your state of consciousness. If you continue to wait for external confirmation, you will remain in a cycle of longing, always looking but never possessing. To live in the end is to assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled before there is any physical proof. It is to claim what you seek in consciousness so completely that there is no room for doubt, no space for questioning. The moment you accept your desire as a present reality, the process of its manifestation begins. It is not about hoping or wishing, it is about knowing, about assuming the state of already being the person who has what they desire. The mind conditioned by the senses will resist this truth. It will argue that facts must be acknowledged, that what is not yet visible cannot be real. But what is visible now is nothing more than the result of past assumption. If you accept your current reality as final, you will only perpetuate more of the same. But if you dare to assume a new reality, if you dare to claim what your heart desires as already yours, then the outer world must conform. You do not need to know how it will happen. You do not need to concern yourself with the means. The world will rearrange itself in ways beyond your comprehension to bring about that which you have assumed. All that is required is that you persist in the assumption that it is already done. Consider how natural this process already is. Every experience you have ever had was preceded by an assumption, whether conscious or unconscious. The person who believes themselves to be unlucky finds misfortune at every turn. The person who assumes themselves to be loved is met with love wherever they go. These assumptions were not made because of evidence, they were made despite it. And yet, in time, the world adjusted to reflect them perfectly. Now you must do this deliberately. Whatever your desire may be, assume it as fact. If it is wealth you seek, assume the feeling of already possessing great abundance. If it is health, assume the feeling of perfect well-being. If it is love, assume the feeling of already being deeply cherished. And do not allow the outer world to shake this assumption. The senses will attempt to contradict you. Circumstances may appear unchanged, but these are only the echoes of past assumptions. If you persist, if you remain faithful to the unseen reality, it must externalize itself in due time. The most powerful time to live in the end is in the quiet moments before sleep. In that drowsy state, as the conscious mind fades, the subconscious becomes most receptive. In this state, you must assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled, not as something distant, not as something you are striving for, but as something already accomplished. See yourself as the person you wish to be. Hear the words you would hear if your desire were already realized. Feel the satisfaction, the gratitude, the certainty. Let this be the last impression upon your mind before you enter sleep, and the subconscious will take this assumption and make it real. Living in the end is not about pretending. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about recognizing that reality is fluid, that it is shaped by consciousness. The moment you accept something as true within, it begins to take form without. And as you persist, as you refuse to accept anything less than the fulfillment of your desire, the world will bend to accommodate you. This is the secret behind every great achievement. Those who have shaped history, those who have turned impossibilities into realities, did not wait for proof. They assumed. They lived from the end, knowing that the unseen was just as real as the seen. They did not concern themselves with obstacles, with doubts, with how others perceived them. They walked in the confidence that what they desired was already theirs, and so it became. You must do the same. If you desire a new reality, live in it now, assume it boldly, persist unwaveringly, and in time the world will reflect back to you the truth of your assumption. The law does not fail. The unseen always becomes seen. What you claim in consciousness must be expressed in form. Live now as the person you wish to be, and watch as life transforms before your very eyes. There is no power greater than the steadfast mind, the unwavering spirit that holds on to an unseen reality until it becomes seen. Everything in life, everything that you now call real, was once only an assumption, an idea held with such conviction that it materialized into form. The world around you is not separate from you. It is the perfect reflection of what you persistently assume to be true. If you desire to see change, you must learn the great secret, that persistence in assumption is the force that transforms the invisible into the visible. Most people believe that reality is fixed, that what they see with their senses is unchangeable. They accept circumstances as final, reacting to them, rather than recognizing them as the outpicturing of their own consciousness. But the wise understand that circumstances are nothing but echoes of past thoughts, past beliefs, past assumptions. If one persists in a new assumption, the world has no choice but to conform. It may not happen instantly, but it must happen, for this is the law of consciousness. To persist is to hold the feeling of the wish fulfilled, regardless of appearances. It is to remain faithful to the unseen reality, refusing to be swayed by doubt or delay. The moment you assume something to be true, you set an unseen chain of events into motion. The subconscious mind, the great servant of creation, takes that assumption and begins working ceaselessly to bring it into form. But if you waver, if you entertain contradictory thoughts, you interrupt the process. The seed you have planted cannot take root if it is continually uprooted by doubt. There is no force outside of you preventing your desire from becoming real. The only opposition comes from within, through disbelief, through attachment to the senses, through the habit of looking to the outer world for validation. But reality does not begin in the outer world, it begins in the mind. If you will but persist in the assumption that your wish is already fulfilled, if you will remain unshaken even when there is no visible evidence, then in time that assumption will harden into fact. Think of the process of shaping metal. When it is first heated, it is fluid, formless, able to be molded into any shape. But once it cools, it becomes fixed, solid, unchangeable. So too are your assumptions. At first, they may seem intangible, like fleeting thoughts. But if you persist, if you reinforce them daily, they solidify. They become as real as the ground beneath your feet. This is the law. That which is held in consciousness long enough must externalize itself in your world. You may wonder, but what if nothing appears to be changing? What if my world remains the same? The answer is simple: persist. The process is always at work, whether you see it or not. Just as a seed, once planted, must go through its stages of growth before breaking through the surface, so too does your assumption require time to manifest. But the seed does not question whether it will grow. It does not look at the soil and say, "Nothing is happening." It simply unfolds in perfect order. So too must you trust in the unseen. The mind conditioned by the senses will seek to dissuade you. It will whisper doubts, urging you to return to the familiar, to accept what appears real rather than what is truly real within. But the one who persists, who remains faithful to the assumption of their desire fulfilled, is the one who reshapes their world. They do not allow circumstances to dictate their belief. They dictate circumstances through their belief. Persistence does not mean struggle. It is not about forcing the outer world to change. It is about remaining unwavering in your conviction, about feeling the reality of your assumption so deeply that there is no space for doubt. It is the quiet, steady knowing that what is assumed must be made real. If you assume yourself to be wealthy, loved, successful, and persist in that assumption, your outer world must shift to reflect it. It is the law. There are no exceptions. Every great achievement, every so-called miracle has followed this principle. Those who have turned impossibilities into realities did so not by chance, but by unwavering faith in their assumption. They did not wait for proof. They persisted until proof appeared. They walked in the certainty that what they claimed in consciousness was already theirs, and so it became. You must do the same. Whatever it is that you desire, assume it now, live in the feeling of its fulfillment, and persist without wavering. Do not concern yourself with time, with means, with appearances. Reality will bend to your assumption, for assumption is the only power. It is not a question of if your desire will manifest, but when. And the when is determined only by your persistence. Hold firm to the unseen. Remain steadfast in your assumption, and it must harden into fact. There is no power outside of you shaping your destiny. The world you see, the circumstances you encounter, the conditions you experience, each is the direct reflection of what you have assumed to be true. Whether consciously or unconsciously, you have created every event in your life. And now, knowing this, you hold the key to transforming your reality in whatever way you choose. The great secret is simple. Assume the feeling of your wish fulfilled. Live as though your desire is already accomplished. Feel it, believe it, and persist in that assumption until it hardens into fact. The subconscious mind does not argue. It does not question. It simply accepts what you impress upon it and brings it forth into your world. Your task is not to force, not to struggle, but to remain faithful to the unseen reality, knowing that in due time it must externalize itself. Do not be deceived by appearances. The senses will tempt you to return to old patterns, to accept lack, doubt, and limitation. But you are no longer bound by the illusions of the outer world. You now understand that everything begins within, that the world is only a mirror reflecting the assumptions you hold. Change your assumption and you change your world. Persist unwaveringly. Even when nothing appears to be changing, trust that the unseen is taking form. The process is always at work, and nothing can prevent its fulfillment except your own doubt. The moment you claim something in consciousness, the unseen forces of creation move to bring it forth. Stay faithful to your vision, and reality will shape itself accordingly. This is the truth that has governed every success, every transformation, every so-called miracle throughout history. Those who have mastered life have done so not by waiting for proof, but by assuming their desires as already real. They did not ask, when will it happen? They lived in the certainty that it already had, and so it became. You are the creator of your reality. There is no limitation except the one you accept. Assume the highest, live from the end, persist in your conviction, and the world will align to reflect your inner state. It is law, it is truth, and it is yours to claim now.